Hey everybody, it's WrestleMania in a week. Yes, that's right, and I'm here to do another rant. This is a bit more orchestrated this time, as I would obviously get lost in saying what I do normally, and I think everyone who watches this video notices that. So today, I've actually noted exactly what I'm going to say so I don't get lost. Now, the one thing I would like to say quickly before I go on with this, congratulations to Wade Barrett on winning the Intercontinental Championship. It's good to see a British guy winning a title at last, because it's fantastic to see that somebody is representing this country in the WWE for the right notes. Not like Regal, who was at one point a worthy champion, is now a jobber down below, even though he's near retirement. Let's just think we need a British guy to represent us, and we are having that. Or an English guy, anyway. Right, now I focus on two topics which I have had to do some thinking about because they both require me to list things. And that obviously explains why I have this up. So, this episode will focus on two things. The first being how winning or losing at WrestleMania can affect a wrestler's career. Now, I could have picked quite a few here, but I've only picked a few, five each for winning and losing, to kind of make it a little easier so I can include the other topic in a bit later. Right, now first on the winning factor, it's Ultimate Warrior. Now, obviously him winning against Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania 6 was not only a fantastic thing for the fact that Hogan didn't win at WrestleMania, which was fantastic, because everyone loves him losing nowadays, and also showed that Warrior had a lot of potential as a main eventer. And at the time, we knew of the Intercontinental title matches he had with Honky Tonk Man, or well, I can't even remember who they had back then actually, because I'm a little bit tired. And it showed that actually he did have potential to go to the main event, which was something that WWE needed at the time, just to see another guy in there. However, winning at WrestleMania 12 against Triple H showed how much of a dick he was and the reputation he had gained backstage. Because, one, he didn't sell many moves that he actually had done. He didn't even sell the pedigree. Anyone who did that nowadays would probably be fired on the spot. Yeah, and it's just the fact that we kind of know he was a dick backstage anyway, because with the age of the internet, everyone knows about the Ultimate Warrior. So, to be honest, seeing that he, obviously knows still the pedigree, she did kind of show how much of a dick he was. That yeah, he had to win, otherwise bad things would happen. Triple H, of course, though next wins at WrestleMania X8 and 19, nailed the fact that he was the WWE's top guy and at the time, top face for X8, top heel for a 19. Now, I look at Triple H thinking, they're probably along with WrestleMania 2000, probably the three most important wins he ever had in his career. For obvious state, because it did solidify him as the big guy. And that, honestly, that apart from Cena winning in WrestleMania 21, there hasn't been a match which has kind of defined a wrestler's place in the company. Although I think Brock Lesnar probably could be in that motion as well in the last 10 years anyway. The Undertaker. Just looking at his record, you can see just looking at how WrestleMania wins have made his career. Because without his streak, his career wouldn't technically be anything today. In fact, all that's left of Undertaker is his streak, which shows how important winning at WrestleMania meant to him and to the fans, because we all wait for Undertaker's WrestleMania match. We all want to see it. And we know after 2 years of epic Shawn Michaels matches, this is going to be a bit of a letdown with him and Triple H this year. But it shows that that undefeated streak has made The Undertaker a force to be reckoned with. Because over time it's become more significant, and his presence has become more significant, as he's now the last guy from the original broadcast of Monday Night Raw to be on WWE TV. So in a way, it's kind of helped bolster his status as a legend and also his status as a good wrestler, because if you're undefeated at WrestleMania, you prove that I'm damn good and I can do good stuff. Owen Hart next. Because I feel winning against Brett at WrestleMania 10 showed his legitimacy as a performer and that he could mix with the best without messing up. Now, obviously in this promo he did have a good area of mic work, which he obviously slated Brett over and over. The fact he won shocked everybody, and it proved he actually did have a big career ahead of him, even though he had been in the WWE for a couple of years prior. Sure, after this he won King of the Ring. He lost a really good cage match against Brett for the title at SummerSlam 94. But apart from that, he only had a couple of tag team and Intercontinental title reigns, breaking Stone Cold's neck, going against Nation Domination and DX, and then of course dying horrifically at Over the Edge 99. But it showed that he was the real deal and he had potential. And by going over your brother, who was considered one of the best wrestlers in the world at the time, that showed you did have exactly that. And finally, on the winning category, there's Edge. Because winning the Triangle Ladder match and TLC 2 solidified him as a mid-carder and a guy in the tag team division. Move on a couple of years from that, winning Money in the Bank and winning the hardcore match at WrestleMania 22 against Foley, which is one of my favourite matches of all time, kind of solidified him as a main eventer forevermore. Because he hasn't fallen out of the main event since. And it kind of shows, yeah, that basically he is a top guy. And that those two matches, Money in the Bank won him his first title. Hardcore match effectively said, yeah, I can put my life on the line for this. I'm going to do whatever it takes to say I'm here, I'm ready to go. And it did. The other is Chavo. The other one's for the losing side now. Chavo Guerrero. His loss at WrestleMania 24 effectively relegated him to the rock bottom of the Jobber Central that we have in the WWE. Simple. Andre the Giant. Losing to Hogan may have solidified Hogan's status, but in my honest opinion, it dropped Andre off the top of the card. Sure, Survivor Series, and that same year, WrestleMania 4, a rematch. He didn't do much after that, and I know his health was getting worse, and I can understand that as a fact for why, but it made Andre, in actually sense, look weak. A guy of that size losing to Hogan, who is an absolute douchebag. You see my point. Now, I'm taking two together here, though. Sheamus and CM Punk. Yeah, because losing at WrestleMania 26 halted the momentum that WWE was building around them. Sheamus as an all-powerful big guy who's stormed to the top in less time than you could think, and CM Punk of being a ridiculously big heel who could effectively get under the skin of everybody. Because if he had won against Ray, everything would have been fine. If Sheamus had won against Triple H, everything would have been fine. And I know Punk regained this momentum. But after the King of the Ring win and all the stuff that he's done, getting beaten up by Cena, beating up by Orton, Sheamus hasn't really regained that momentum, and I still feel he hasn't. So, effectively, his career has gone a bit downhill since. Bam Bam Bigelow losing to Lawrence Taylor made him, as a wrestler, and wrestling in general, look weak. Because, honestly, you take a guy who's an American footballer in, and he wins against a guy who can moonsault off top ropes, and he's one of the best athletic guys I've ever seen in terms of big men. And that's... honestly, that is just a farce. Because until Bam Bam went to ECW and made his career mean something again, he did nothing. He did nothing. WWE apparently didn't give him the push he was apparently promised. And also, that one of the biggest guys was never given the chance to prove how good he was after that. And that was a real bad thing. And last of all, but not least, probably the most important and most memorable case of losing a match at WrestleMania turned out to be Stone Cold Steve Austin, obviously. Because losing at WrestleMania 13 made his career. Come on, if it wasn't for that double turn, Austin would never be as big as he turned out to be. Any wrestling fan can admit that. Any wrestling fan. Because it made Brett be a heel again, which was awesome, but it showed that Austin could main event in the big time and gain that gigantic reaction. Hey? Makes sense. And now, that's that done with. 5 each, all done. Here is my list of what shouldn't and should be included on a card at WrestleMania in any way or form. This is going to be awesome. I once again picked 5 things. It was going to be 6 things, but I thought 5 is a good round number. Now, what should we include at WrestleMania? What should Vince McMahon and his creative staff think should be put on WrestleMania? Yes, the biggest event of the year. You need to make it big. However, I feel you need to include these 5 things to make it special in a way. 1. Having both mid-card titles on the card. Because if you want to waste people, there's no Money in the Bank ladder match anymore. You put the Battle Royal on before Mania. Don't put some people with significant talent out of WrestleMania if you know they can make people a good reaction for it. So, putting the Intercontinental title and the US title on is a fantastic thing, because you're able to showcase their abilities and make the titles mean something. Because the fact that the US title and the WWE and the Intercontinental title have not been put on the line at WrestleMania much in the last 10 years shows how much WWE lost the ball with them. So, Makes a bit of sense. Number 2, have a match on the card that effectively can create a spot, has an opportunity to create spots, because WrestleMania moments are effectively ones that make you go, holy shit, or, oh, that's awesome. So, if you have a spot, have an opportunity to do it, because it's often these kinds of spots that will get remembered. So just do that, and it will make the event a lot more significant, I say. Number 3, have one technical wrestling match at least. It's obviously seen, in my opinion, that since WrestleMania 2000, the technical match has sold and has apparently critically gone up. Triple threat match for the Intercontinental and European Championships at WrestleMania 2000. The Benoit Angle match at 17. There obviously wasn't really a technical match at 18 to write home about. 19 had Lesnar Angle and Jericho Michaels. Then, of course, the others that follow, you know what if you know wrestling, you know which ones I mean. And they are important because it keeps wrestling in WrestleMania. Number 4, having a world title match longer than 20 minutes. Because if one of them is going to be the main event, make sure you can let the fans understand why these two are in the main event in the first place. Have them go at each other. And because it really creates an impact thinking, I've waited this long to see this happen, let's see it happen, let's see these guys kick the crap out of each other. It makes sense to me. And number 5, have interference by someone not being involved in a match, especially a big title match, because it can make a giant impact. Mr. McMahon made a giant impact interfering and helping Austin win at X7. That makes sense to me. But if you look at the others down the line, I'm not in divulge to list because I don't think there are many. But a title match where effectively someone interferes and costs you it can make a big impact to a wrestler thinking, yeah, I just cost this guy a title, therefore I should be listened to. That makes sense to me as a push factor, in my opinion. And now we've got the shouldn'ts. I think the shouldn'ts are pretty self-evident here. Number 1, celebrity involvement in a match. Just don't even bother. If they're not trained to wrestle, do not put them in there in the first place. Lawrence Taylor, Snooki, Akebono. Floyd Mayweather at least did a decent job of a boxing match because he actually can. But honestly, I just do not see why you should put a celebrity in a match because they don't know what's going on. They don't know wrestling enough to put it forward. Sure, if they're a big fan, stick them in there and see how they do. If they prove to be good enough, sign them. But do not stick them in there if they're unproven. That's why I feel this Snooki match at Mania is going to be shit, despite having Ziggler and Morrison in it. Number 2, a women's title match that effectively isn't going to be worth our time. Because if it's not going to be worth our time, if you're not putting female performers in there who can actually wrestle, then don't even put it on the card. Because it wastes time. Because everyone can go to the bathroom anyway and do the leak, make a cup of tea, eat some food. That was all it's good for. It's not worth a time wasting one match on a card that could be having a mid-card match instead. The 25 Diva Battle Royal at WrestleMania 25 is especially relevant for that. Number 3, non-ladder and street fight based gimmick matches, because obviously at WrestleMania they don't work. Hell in a Cell at WrestleMania 15, I'm looking right at you. Because ladder matches, you can see from far away how high they are and the falls they take. It's fun. Street fights, at least, you get the scope to see everything. It's the same thing. But when you have other matches, it doesn't make sense. I'll leave it there. Number 4, Hornswoggle. Yeah, just don't put Hornswoggle on. You know why. He's an embarrassment. He made the Royal Rumble into a complete joke back in January, and that little midget should effectively fuck off before I even, in fact, have to talk about him some more, because I hate talking about that little midget bastard. And finally, as we can learn from WrestleMania 9 for this one, 5, a match that occurs unannounced after the main event, unless it is a legitimate match, like a Money in the Bank cash-in. Now, obviously, if you're going to cash in Money in the Bank at WrestleMania, good luck to you, because you're going to make a big name for yourself. But like what Hogan did, coming back and challenging Yokozuna to a match, and then winning. Just, what the fuck was that about? And effectively, it made people hate Hogan, and it made Yokozuna look like shit. So effectively, if you're going to have a Money in the Bank cash-in, go ahead and have it, because that'll make sense. However, if you put a guy in a match randomly, it just is awful. Awful, awful, awful. And that is my rant, guys. I'm slowly running out of time here quickly. I will be back on Friday for a WrestleMania X7 10 years on recap. And also the prediction show after that, the next day. So, see you guys next week. Have a good week.